Hello, Algebra 1 students. This is Mr. Foster. Welcome to the second section in Cumulative Review number 3. We're going to be covering questions 12 through 19. So you should be open to the second page, and we're on number 12. Here we have an absolute value equation, and we're trying to sort out what to do in order to get this alone, because our steps are going to be there's going to be 3. First, we need to get or isolate the absolute value. Second, once we do have it isolated, we need to make sure that it's not equal to a negative. Because if it were equal to negative, then we'd be finished because there would be no solution. And then from there, we would solve the absolute value equation by creating 2 equations. One positive, one negative. All right, so let's see what that looks like. In this case, we haven't isolated the absolute value yet, so we're going to start by moving the 1 to the other side. We're left with negative 2, absolute value 6x minus 4 equals negative 20. Now we see that we have the negative 2, there's actually a times the absolute value in there, so we have to divide by that negative 2. And now we have absolute value 6x minus 4 is equal to 10. Our value is positive. Our absolute value equation on this side is isolated. There's nothing behind it or in front of it. So we can create our 2 problems. It's going to be 6x minus 4 equals 10. And then in parentheses, negative 6x minus 4 equals 10. Now that I have both of these equations, I'm just going to solve those individually. And I mean, this we've done several times. Just have to make sure we follow proper algebraic solutions. So we're going to add 4 to both sides. We have 6x equals 14. And then that 6 is times x, so we're going to divide by 6. And we have x equals 7 over 3. That's 14 over 6 reduced. That's one solution. Then on the other side, we have negative 6x minus 4 equals 10. I like to start by dividing by negative 1 to get rid of that. Or you can multiply by negative 1, it's all the same. And we're left with 6x minus 4 equal negative 10. Add 4 to both sides. 6x equals negative 6. Divide by 6. I should say x equals negative 1. So we have our 2 solutions. Right there. Okay, now looking at number 13, it looks fairly similar to the previous question, but as you'll see, we have a slightly different kind of solution. First step here, again, we have a number out in front, which is times the absolute value, and we have the number added. So we're going to subtract that number from both sides. And we have 3 times the absolute value of x plus 3 is equal to negative 6. At this point, we're still going to need to get rid of the 3, so we're going to divide both sides by 3. And we have absolute value, x plus 3 equals negative 2. So the absolute value is isolated. However, it's equal to a negative value. And in that case, we have a shortcut, which is just no solution. Okay, now we're going to be solving equations, basically translating from this statement in words into an equation in mathematical terms. So let's recall that we use the word of. We really mean times. We see the word what. We think the variable, in this case we'll just call it x. See the word is, and we think of the equal sign. And then percent is converted by moving the decimal 2 places to the left. So let's try this one. So it says 15%, so we're going to write 15% as a decimal, 0.15 of, which is the times symbol, what equals or is 12. 0.15x equal 12. We're trying to solve for x, so we're just going to divide both sides by that 0.15. That's a point. And now it's just simple math. You pop that in the calculator, 12 divided by 15. X equals 80. Okay, 15 is another percent translation, and we're going to use that same terminology, and we're going to translate. So 90 is easy to translate because that's just a number. We just write that. We see that word is, we think, equals what percent is really just x over 100, and of 120. Now, we're still trying to solve for x, so we got to, wow, I just messed that up. Anyway, we're still trying to solve for that x, so we're going to have to divide both sides by that 120, and then we're going to have to multiply by 100. So it took 2 steps to get us to the end here. So first step, divide by 120. Which gives us 0.75 equals x over 100. Now we need to get rid of that fraction, so we're going to have to multiply both sides by 100. And we end up with 75 equals x. And that should be written as a percent. Moving on, numbers 16 and 17, we have these ratios. A fraction equals a fraction. And hopefully you remember that what we're looking to do now is just cross multiply and then set those equal to each other. So I'm going to rewrite this as 3 times 5 is equal to 2 times the quantity x minus 1. And then we have to remember to distribute that too. So what we get is 15 equals 2x minus 2. And now we're doing simple algebra. Add 2 to both sides because we're trying to solve for x. It's not divided by. So that's 17 equals 2x. And 17 over 2 equals x. You can leave it like that, or you could reduce it to a decimal. It can't be reduced any further as a fraction. And with 17 here again, we have these two ratios, or these two fractions set equal to each other. It's very similar to number 16, except you're going to have 2 times you're going to have to distribute. So I'm just going to go ahead and write these. It's that one. Negative 4 times the quantity x plus 2. And this one, which is equal to negative 8 times the quantity 2x minus 6. Distribute each of these, and you would get negative 4x minus 8 equals negative 16x plus 48. We're going to move our x's to one side and our numbers to the other. In this case, I like the idea of adding 16x to both sides. That gets us to a positive number. So we get 12x minus 8 equal to 48. And then we can move that 8 over, because we're still trying to get that x alone. And we have 12x equals 56. And then we just need to divide both sides by 12. And that reduces by dividing by 4. So let's just show it that way, which will give us, for our final answer, 14 over 3. Do make sure you reduce that, though. All right, moving on to number 18. This is a word problem that's really just a set of ratios. So we're going to set up this fraction, 11 gallons per 5 hours. And at this rate, how many gallons of gas will be used in 12 hours? So remembering that gallons goes on top. So I'm going to say that is equal to X number of gallons in 12 hours. Well, doesn't this look exactly like what we just did? We're going to cross multiply. 5x equals 11 times 12, which is 132. Divide both sides by 5. And we have x equals 132 over 5. Well, that doesn't really tell us how many gallons. Let's go ahead and pop that in the calculator. And you should come out with 26.4 gallons of gas. Remember to answer what they're asking, which is how many gallons. So we're answering in gallons. And finally, number 19, there's a legend on a map that shows 1.5 centimeters is equal to 50 miles. Well, 1.5 over 50 is equal to what distance would be represented by a measurement of 6 centimeters. Well, this 1.5 was centimeters, so I'm going to leave 6 centimeters on top, and on the bottom, x miles. And again, we're just going to cross multiply, and we're going to say 1.5x is equal to 300. Divide both sides by 1.5 because we need that x alone. And we end up with x equals 200. Miles. And that's it for my section of the review. I hope that was helpful. Please, if you have any questions, ask one of us in class. Good luck with the rest of the review.